Okay, we're going back a little old school. We're going to talk about all the way back to the beginning of all the sorts of things we're supposed to read and how to do. I'm going to try to put it together one more time before we move on. Right here I have the number of electrons in neutral atoms of aluminum. And so again, I'm just going to look at the periodic table. I do expect you to look at the periodic table. If you think you should have these things memorized, silly, 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 no. Definitely not. You should have these not memorized at all. You should be thinking completely about just looking at the periodic table. Again, every chemistry classroom in America has it sitting on the wall. So look up at aluminum. Aluminum is 13, so if it's 13 protons, it has 13 electrons, as long as it's neutral. Now, neutral means that there's no net charge. It means there's no net positive or negative, which means there's 13 positive charges. So therefore, there must be 13 negative charges to balance that out. It's the first time we said it that way. It's a little different than we said before, but this should be really easy. Oxygen has 8 protons, therefore if it's neutral, it must have 8 electrons. Done. Piece of cake. How hard is this assignment? It's wonderful. Let's get the next thing up for you here. Oop. Okay, next thing I have here, by the way, this one you're going to have a little trouble finding. It's actually on the back page, this one right here. I'm going to start with it. And that is, I'm going to start with B with a little 0 up there. It means a B with no charge. It's not on the left side, it's on the right-hand side, right? So for the right-hand side, this refers to charge. And B with no charge is neutral. So boron, which, if I look on the chart, has 5 protons. It must have 5 electrons if it's going to be neutral. Now here's where things get fun. Aluminum is supposed to have 13, but it's plus 3. Well, what plus 3 charge means it's lost 3 of its electrons. So if it started with 13, it must be 13 minus the 3 gives me 10 electrons. All right, follow this again. If it's got a plus 3 charge, it means it's lost 3 of its negatives. Each one of those electrons represents a negative. So if I'm starting with 13, I'm going to lose 3 electrons. That gives me 10 electrons. Conversely, oxygen, my pen is over here. Okay, conversely, oxygen, which is minus 2, well, that means it's gained 2 electrons. So it would be 8 normally, right? Just like we did up here. 8 protons means 8 electrons, but minus 2 means I've gained 2 electrons. So minus, now this is a trick, minus negative 2. You always ask your math teacher why minus negative 2 would mean 10. Be adding 2? It's because subtracting 2 negative charges, okay, gaining 2 negative charges is going to make me more negative, right? That was just a badly said. Let me back that up. Don't listen to that too carefully. Don't rewind that part. Look, it's 8 electrons, right? To begin with, right? Because that's what it starts with. If I have 2 negative, that means I'm going to gain 2 electrons. So plus 2 gives me 10. Now a trick you can use that's quicker is you can say minus the charge. So 13 minus 3 gave me 10. 8 minus a negative 2 gives me 10. Okay. By the way, why do both these have 10 electrons in the outer shell? Because they're both trying to get stable, right? They're losing all their electrons or gaining electrons to make a full shell. All right. So then you get the double down on this. Let's get this one up here where we can look at it. All right, this is the first section. This is the second section. Here's the third section. And again, the rest of it's just going to be all reviewed from there. So it says oxygen with 10 electrons. Well, oxygen's supposed to have 8 electrons, right? It's supposed to have 8. It has 2 extra electrons, so it would be negative 2. Another way to look at it, by the way, is if it has 10 electrons, 8 electrons, what I'm supposed to have, minus 10 that I do have, ends up being negative 2. Or 8 protons, which is what the chart says, is 8 protons, and 10 electrons means I have 2 more negatives than positives, and so the negatives win. Bromine, I look up bromine. Bromine has 35 protons, okay? So it's 35 pluses, plus it has 36 electrons. That's minus 36 negatives, right? Which one's bigger? 36. So there'll be one left over negative, so my charge would be -1. All right, so protons minus the number of electrons gives you what the charge is. Okay, so this is actually the same thing done 3 different ways. And as long as you can find out one way to get the right answers, I'm not that picky. All of them will work, and all of them get you ready in case you end up taking a class which requires you to know some chemistry next year. And most of them do. It's a possibility of science. All right, any more science requires some. All right, I'll finish up the worksheet, send it on my merry way.